Hello and welcome back to another video. I received some very interesting things in the mail recently, and it gave me an idea for this video. The first thing I received is this, my new zine, the Carlton Years Volume 2, which is a sequel to my earlier zine from this year, aptly named the Carlton Years Volume 1. And it's, it's like a big 30 pages of pictures of that I've taken here in Ottawa and around while I was at university. So it covers about 4 years of my life, the entire thing. I think this is the second 2 to 3 years worth of pictures. And, I'm not going to talk about the zine itself too much right now. I think we're just going to go into about zines as a whole and about printing your work and how important that is. In the digital age where we're viewing our pictures very likely on a screen, pretty likely on your phone, which is quite small, or just your computer, which can be small or large depending on whether you're using a laptop or a monitor, and you're a little bit of a ways away from it. It's kind of difficult to always think about physical media. To print our photos is something that doesn't get done nearly as much, and so I wanted to talk about printing work and photo books as a whole. And we're going to start that off with the second thing I got in the mail, which is this. Okay, so I'm really excited to see this book. I haven't looked at it yet, but it's got like a very interesting Morse code going on. But overall, I'm a big fan of Trent Parke's work. And I love that this book is so large. I love large print. And I'm really excited to look inside. These are just such massive pictures. And you can see the detail on these mosquitoes, I think. Wow, just look at that. Just amazing. And I think the entirety of this book is black and white by the looks of it. Kind of hard to say for sure, but I think that's what we can expect. Really great stuff. I'm gonna look through all of this. I'm not gonna go over the entirety of the book, but let's see if I can find some of the great shots so we can just talk about them for a second. Wow, I mean, just look at that. What an amazing shot. If you came across that, that would just make your day. And another really interesting thing to think about when dealing with print and photo books is sequencing, which is something that maybe until you do it, it doesn't really seem like a big deal, but it's a large part of the book. Is how things are going to flow into one another. And look at this. This is one of Trent Parke's more famous photos. It's just, look at that. Look at the rays. Look at the grain. And I wish I could tell you how large this print is. I'm going to find out, but it's so massive. It's so amazing to see. It's such a stark contrast from viewing things on your phone. Okay, one last shot here. This is one of my favorite photos from Trent Parke. And I've probably talked about it on this channel before, but I've actually been trying to recreate something like this recently just to try it out. But that's just another thing that looking at photo books and photos by other creators will do, is it gives you ideas and things to inspire you to try. And this is just such an interesting idea, and to shoot that on film just really goes to show the creativity and the mastery of Trent Parke as a photographer. And while I don't shoot nearly as much black and white, I can still appreciate how amazing these photos are, and the black and white is part of it. I'm sure this would be good in color, but I think it just feels so right in black and white, and sometimes it is definitely just the better option. Here's another photo book by one of the greats. This is an Ernst Haas book. This is New York in Color, 1952 to 62. And if you open it, it's just Ernst Haas truly is just a master of color. It's just amazing the kind of photos that are in this book. And sometimes they're quite often actually they're just of things like reflections and stuff like that are abstract. It's not necessarily people, and yet you can just see just his vision. And I think that's something that's really important, and something that you get to see a lot more in photo books, because you're printing the work that you want to see. And it's entirely possible. I'm not 100% certain about who made this specific book. This could be like a collection by a publisher. I'll look into that in a second. Yeah, Alex Haas. So like Ernst Haas's son had something to do with this book, but it's especially true when you have the books that are made by the artists themselves, where you get to see more of the stuff that they want to show you. And I think that that's really cool, and something that you don't necessarily get as much on Instagram. Sometimes it's more about, or even just the internet as a whole, is you're getting stuff that is marketed well, or stuff that people might think might perform well, or things that do perform well against the thoughts of the artist. And in a lot of places it's either you post the things that you think will perform well, or you post what you like and it doesn't perform well, so you don't see it. There's just a lot of things that could prevent you from seeing things. And then sometimes some people don't use social media, or there's just a scarcity of the actual work that they're most proud of. And even the back of this book, I love this photo so much. And let's talk about a few more things. And then there's also the smaller photographers, like people who you may not have heard of, and that's such a great way to discover them, is through little photo books or large photo books. I mean, this just happens to be a small one. I picked this up in England. It's Whitechapel, 1970s, Part 2 by Ron McCormick. I bought a few other similar ones that are from different photographers in that East London area. And there's these photos in here. Like, look at this photo of this family. It's amazing. Like, it's so real. It's so true to life. Some of them it's just baffling to me that so much of this work exists and a lot of people will never see it. And that's why I love photo books, because you get to print them, you get to see them. Also, look at the sizing. This, while small compared to the books that we had on a little while ago, is still so much bigger than your phone or your tablet in many ways. In some cases, you don't even have a native app like Instagram on tablets to be able to view them. So, being able to view these photos and just really look at them, it's a whole different feeling. And on top of that, for a lot of smaller creators like myself or people I know, it's just great to be able to look at your own work and be able to share it with people in a print format. So I buy, every single photo book that I can from smaller creators. These are a bunch from friends of mine. This is from Giacomo Viero, who's a great street photographer here in Ottawa. This is from a close friend of mine, Arno, who was actually on Walkabout Sessions. And, it's all black and white photos. And it's just, this is from another friend of mine, Adele. I plan to do a Walkabout session with him. This is the Boneyard, his zine, from, like a scrapyard. It's just all broken down cars. It's all analog. This is Do It for the Grain, which is a local Ottawa zine, which I volunteer with. And there's a lot of times where I've been featured in it, and just a lot of the creators and photographers in Ottawa that shoot on film. I've met them through the zine, and it's actually, we featured Kenneth on the channel before, and we've spoken about this. It's just so great to be able to feel these photos in your hand and look at them, and it's just a great way to create a community. I picked this up in Toronto. It's by Samuel. His last name escapes me right now, but he makes these zines, and I really love the design that went into this. I'm going to link everyone involved in the description, so you can check them out, check out their zines, and it's just another way as well for photographers to create something, but also it's in some cases, like you get to share your work and you get like a little bit of income out of it too. And I just really love it. It's kind of one of my obsessions is to acquire as many photo books as I can and look through them because I love looking at photos so much. This is Ephemera. It's by Josh Renault, who's in Montreal, and I think he takes all of his photos on his phone, and it's mostly to do with like architecture and nature. And they don't always, in fact, I feel like they rarely feature people. Sometimes they do, but it's just another great book. And he's also someone who used to live in Ottawa, and I met him here, and it's just so nice to be able to see the work that the people put out. This is by Kane, who is a Japanese photographer who lives here in Ottawa. Like she's going to school here. Another friend of mine, and it's just great. This is like one of her trips that she took to an island in Japan, I think. But yeah, it's just super nice, and I mean, I'm gonna keep saying the same things, but I just cannot reiterate how amazing it is to see the work that everyone wants to put out into these books. It's just great, and I'm always looking to make more zines myself and print my work, and it's just a great way to learn and to think about your photography more beyond the lines of just taking the photo. Is how do you then show the photo, and how can that be beneficial to you as a photographer to view more photos as well. And sometimes making a zine can also be, or a photo book can just be in and of itself an inspiration to do a small project. This is a cool book that's comparing Paris to a small city in China that's been built to resemble Paris. And it's such a cool concept, and it's like these little things that come up as ideas or even passion projects, and the book or the zine is sort of just the way to realize that. So as a photographer, it's great for you to be able to both experience other people's photography through these photo books. It's more real. You get the sequencing, you get the ideas that they wanted to convey. Sometimes they'll write things, but also you get to see their thought process in sequencing, in showing you what they want the photo to look like. It's also just a great way for you to get ideas and to expose yourself to more points of view and more genres of photography and styles of photo and techniques that you may have never considered. But it's also, for you as a photographer, it can be something that you strive to create, so it can be your project. So you can learn from other people's photo books, and the idea of the photo book can also be something that's beneficial to you because you use that idea to fuel a certain project, or come up with an interesting concept to produce a body of work. But yeah, that's sort of the gist of it. Another reason I would advocate for printing your work is that you get to view it at a larger size than you would on your phone or your screen, and you get to view it with a front light, which is just different from seeing it backlit on a screen. It's just a different feeling, in my opinion, and photographic paper looks so nice. There's just something to be said about holding in your hand the work that you've made. And I know that it's not necessarily always accessible to everyone, so I'm not going to suggest that you print all your photos, but I say if you take the time off every now and again to compile some of your recent work that you really like and then print it to a size that you're comfortable with. 4x6 is usually very affordable in most places. 5x7 is that much nicer, but can be a little bit expensive, I understand. The other thing that I recommend, which is something that I like to do, is I purchased a tablet to view my photos. So it's about like 11 inches, and there's a lot of pretty affordable options out there. So I think that It's just something where you get to view it in your hands, and it's a little bit bigger than your phone. You're not usually holding monitors like the way you hold a tablet, so it works. It's a happy medium in my opinion, and I'd recommend it. Now, I love photo books. I think that they're a great way for you to experience more work, because on social media and the internet, it's so difficult to find a variety of work, because it's not always brought to your attention. There's so many different algorithms going on that recommend to you the things that they think that you'll like, but that really limits the scope of what you're able to see. It doesn't give a lot of randomness. So I really advocate for going out and purchasing photo books, because you go to a bookstore and you're at the mercy of whatever is available there. And it could be some very popular stuff, or it could be local independent stuff and smaller photographers. And I think that just gives you so much more choice that you wouldn't necessarily see recommended to you online. Not to say that people who are popular online are necessarily bad. It's just that the people whose work you'll see are the ones who have platforms, who have cracked the code to marketing their work. And there's so many people who are out there producing work that you don't get to see, because they're not spending the time marketing. They're just continually putting the work out, maybe for themselves, maybe for a small audience, and you're just not privy to that. So I think that when books and things like that are released, or just prints as a whole are released, they're available to everyone, and maybe you don't know about it because you're not necessarily seeing that directly. But if you go to a store and you purchase photo books, you're going to see what's available in your area, and that might be a mix of old and new things, and it might be a mix of local and large. Plus, the additional inspiration that you can get from photo books, which I think is different, is that when curating bodies of work, like one is more likely to do when producing a publication of any kind, is that the idea of what the theme is going to be, or what the project is going to be, is something that's more cohesive than just whatever you put online. Sometimes you might just post things chronologically and not necessarily thinking about it in terms of an overarching project, which is more the case when releasing something like a photo book, because it's always going to be seen in this sequence. And then there's things to consider about what pictures go with what, how do you present the pictures. There's so much thought that goes into it, and you get to really see the work that the photographer themselves cares about, because that's the stuff that they want you to see, more so than, I think that it's so easy to post something online that the thought of really the taking time to think about what you're putting up doesn't feel as real or necessary, because it's just a few clicks, and it's not, am I going to put this out there? How many people are going to see it? Is it going to cost me money? It's not necessarily something that you think about. When you're making a post, you're just putting it out there, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, it's fine. You haven't really lost much. But when you're creating physical media, either for yourself or for retail, you have to think about putting together something that you care about, that you want to perform well, because it's going to cost you something. There's a process involved in getting it to, bringing it to life, that isn't as real, or isn't as, isn't as striking as just publishing something online, especially if it's on social media. And finally, I want to say that none of this is anti the internet or social media. I don't think that there's anything that's necessarily wrong with those mediums for consuming your art. It's just that there's a whole world out there that may never make it on there. There's photographers who are either no longer producing work, or may have passed away, and their work only exists in physical print. And there's some who are just smaller scale, or they live in places that you just don't ever see, so you might not know about their work. And I think that like when you produce this physical media, there's just an extra layer of curation, an extra layer of thought that goes into it that doesn't necessarily always happen when doing it purely digitally. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And now I'll just take a few moments to talk about my new zine. So if you want to grab a copy of these are 8.5 by 11 inches. They're quite large. And all the text inside is handwritten out like this, sort of like in the style of a notebook. It's a design choice that I made for this series. And it's a little bit ambitious, but I quite like the styling. And here's a sneak peek of what you can see, but there's about 30-ish images in there. They're all quite large print. There's a mix of digital and analog, and it covers mostly Ottawa and a few other places in the second half of my degree here in Canada, and a little bit in other places. But yeah, if you're interested in one of these, they're about 18 Canadian dollars if you're local to Ottawa. If you are elsewhere in Canada or the States, you're gonna have to pay for shipping, which is around 2 to 3 Canadian dollars. So about like 20-ish Canadian for Canadian and for Canada and the States shipping. Internationally, it's a little bit more, but it's not crazy. But yeah, send me a message or comment or something. Just reach out to me. Easiest place is Instagram, but if you comment here, that's fine too. And yeah, I'll thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.